So I created a new project named Reading and Writing Objects. In this example, I went ahead and brought in the file util class. So this is the util class that I created in my previous example. I have my student class. So this is a student with a name and 3 test grades, a really simple object. And then here's my driver. So for this driver, what I'm doing is I'm invoking the method called loadStudent. I'm passing a name of a file. And then inside my loadStudent method, I check to see if the file exists. If it exists, I currently do nothing. But if it doesn't exist, I instantiate the object. Then I return the student object out of the method. So that object gets returned here. And then I print out my object. I'm going to go ahead and run this program. And here's my result. So when we got into chapter 7, we talked about using the scanner class in order to read in data from a file. We can do that here. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. The first thing I'm going to need is I'm going to need to create my student text file. So I'm going to create this file inside of the project. Then inside of this file, I'm going to enter in some data that I'm going to parse out. And here's the data that I entered into this file. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to read that data, and I'm going to store it into my object. Here's what I do to read the information out. I use the scanner. The scanner doesn't read the file. I use my util class to read the file. I do have to handle my exception. So if there's an exception thrown, this is the message I print out. I set my delimiter to comma. This scanner is only scanning the data inside of the file. Because I'm the one who created the data, I know the first token is a string and the next 3 tokens are floats. I did have to change my file content. I had to add a comma to the end, otherwise my scanner would not parse this last number. So now when I run this program, this is what I see. So you can see that it's reading the data from the file. So now what I want to do is I want to update the student object and save data to the file. So I made a method called saveStudent that takes in a file name and a student object. Here's a method. The first thing I do is create the line that I want to save to the file. It's going to consist of the student name and his test grades. Then I invoke the method writeToFile on the file util class. I pass in the file that I want to write to and the data that I want to write. I handle the input-output exception by displaying this error. So the save method is going to save any changes that I make to my student object to the student file. I'm going to go ahead and run this program. Here's my output, and then after this line is where I save my data. If I look at my data, you can see that it saved my data 100, 81, 93. So the only thing that I changed was test 1. Now if I were to run this program again, we'll see the updates in the student object. And here's my student object. You can see the test 1 grade is 100. So this is a simple project to demonstrate reading and writing data to a file. Now taking this approach, we have to come up with our own format for the data so that we know how to read it and write it. But there's another way to save data from a student object. I'm going to demonstrate that next.